Hello and welcome to Sunny Simple Living, where today we're going to talk about all the things you can do if you want to move to an off-grid property. Also all the things we did and the things we did right, the things we think we shouldn't have done, the things we think we should have done. All of those things we're going to talk about today. So if you hear, please say hi, just let me know where you are tuning in from. I love hearing that there's people from all over the world, although I think if you're tuning really live on Facebook right now, it's 11 a.m. in the morning, so I doubt there will be many people from the US, but by all means, tell us where you are and where you're tuning in from. So today we're talking about all the things you can do off the grid. And to start with first, there's a lot of things you can do if you're not quite ready to move off the grid. If you don't have a property yet, if you're not sure what you're going to do, if you like the idea of living off the grid but not sure if it's for you, there's still lots of things you can do actually. You can start with just gardening where you are, trying to grow your own food a bit. Even if you live in a tiny apartment, you can still grow herbs and things like that. So you can do urban gardening, which I'm planning to do a bit more about in the future. Let's grow some of your own herbs, veggies. And secondly, you can start buying, if you're not doing that yet, you can buy more consciously as well. You can, like when you go to the shop and you have the choice between something that's local and that's seasonal and that's fresh, or you can buy something just in a package or something that's been imported from the other side of the world. Well, you know what's the right choice, right? It might be a tiny bit more expensive, but as we say, every dollar you spend is a vote towards the world you want to live in. So it's a start, right? Also, if you're preparing, or if you don't know if going off the grid is quite for you, you can prepare by, or just test things out just by trying to do things as if you were living on the grid, like cooking everything from scratch or trying to repair your own stuff. That's a really big thing. Like somebody in the group, we have a group for people living off the grid in Spain, and somebody said, well, if you're not really handy and if you're not a very practical person, just don't bother. So you can just start by trying and repair your own stuff and fix, and maybe make your own stuff as well and fix things when they're broken. It might not work, but at least you'd be learning that way, and you could see if living off the grid would be for you. Because living off the grid, basically, you're quite far away from everything. In most cases, I'm not saying in all cases, it's possible to live off the grid in the city, but in most cases, we're talking about living remotely. And when something breaks, you can't call somebody, but he's probably an hour away and not available right now. So you probably have to find a way to do something about it right now yourself. So try and get a bit practical. That's a good way to start. Now, if you're one of these people who already have real plans, like specific plans to move off the grid, or you maybe already bought a property, or you maybe you already moved to where you want to be, but you still have more preparing to go, then this video is for you. And if you're tuning in now, say hi. Oh, I see there's Maritza there. Good morning, Maritza. How is the weather in Asturias? It's so last week, about 10 days ago, it was really snowing. We were snowed in here. And today, well, yesterday was really sunny. Today it's not that sunny, but it's still light and not cold at all. And hi, Melissa. Well, Melissa has the same weather as me, I assume. She's just a few villages up there. And that's Melissa from Getting the Good Life. If you have seen probably some of the links on my page, or you have seen her around in the group as well, I suppose. Now, let's just continue with the thing, well, I have my slides here. I make slides for all the lives I do. So let's continue by talking how we can prepare to go off the grid. So the things I thought about when I was preparing for this is all the different aspects of living off the grid that we actually try to prepare for, or should have prepared for, because there's a lot of things you can prepare for, and well, yeah, there's lots of choices to make there. So first, there will be a house to build. So are you going to build it yourself? Are you going to have it built? Still, it's really good to know what you want and know what you don't want when it comes to systems and structures and things like that. There's also preparing to manage a property. In many cases, you'll be moving to an off-grid property, and that will be quite a lot to manage. And knowing a bit in advance what you're planning to do with it can help a lot. There's also preparing for self-sufficiency, and that's what I talked about just a few minutes ago. It's like preparing, starting to do stuff on your own, starting to cook your own food from scratch, maybe grow some of your own food, maybe fix some of your own stuff, maybe make your own stuff. There's also preparing to move abroad. So that's different things. And then there's a whole change of life, right? You'll have to get into a complete different mindset. Well, you don't have to, but usually you just will. So let's just tackle the first thing. Oh, it's raining and not cold in Asturias, is it? Oh, raining that much in Asturias? I wouldn't expect that. But yeah, it's more up north, and raining and not cold is still better than raining and cold, right? So if we prepare for an off-grid life, first of all, we'll want to prepare for the whole mindset, right? And for me, that was to take a permaculture design course. That has really helped me. Not only am I now a certified permaculture designer, not that I have done that much with it, I have done a lot of things on our property with it, but I'm technically a permaculture designer. But it also helped me get into the mindset of having that property, of thinking the permaculture way. And permaculture, if you don't know what that is yet, it's about managing your property or doing things in a way to work with nature instead of against it or around it. So it's got all these little things you can do, and also big things you can do to design your property, to design your house, to keep animals, like which animals to keep and that kind of thing. So I will do more on permaculture. I'm planning to do one of these chats on Friday live on permaculture, because I really love permaculture. So I would love to talk a bit more about that in the future. So taking a permaculture course can help. Also looking into things like machinery and tools and things you'll actually need when you live off the grid, and learning skills, of course. So learning skills and also acquiring a lot of knowledge, especially the first step in this webinar thingy live is how to prepare to build a house. So you don't have to build your own house. Some people do, but many people don't. Of course, it's something that requires skills, right? So many people don't build their own house, but you still want to know what's going on there. You still want to know how the solar system will work if you want a solar system. You'll want to know how the water is, how you are collecting water or getting water from somewhere, and how you are spending your water as well, how you are using it, like things like gray and black water systems. That's what we actually went for when we built this house. We have everything ready to use gray and black water systems, which is basically reusing used water. For instance, if you just washed your hands or something, that water can easily be used to flush the toilet as well, or to water your plants and things like that. So reusing your water is a good thing to look into. Also heating systems, we talked about that last week. So if you want to learn a bit more about heating and cooling your house off the grid, then by all means watch last week's video. And designing your house, that's a big thing. We did design our house, but we think we made quite a lot of mistakes there. So when you're designing your house, we visited a lot of other houses. We thought, oh, we're designing a house, so we want to know how big does the kitchen need to be, and how big, what's the orientation of this. And the thing is, if you are designing your house, even if you're talking to an architect, also make sure you visit a few other off-grid houses or other rural houses as well that can be comparable as well. Because it's not quite the same thing, and there's always little things. Maybe I'll do a live about designing a house as well. We have some people around here, our friends Martin and Gail, they spent years and years, especially Martin, he just spent, I think, 15 or 20 years of his life designing his house. And that house is just about perfect for him. And we spent just a few years designing our house, but we didn't think it through. Well, we did think it through, but we didn't take everything into account. So I might do another chat on it another time. So that's basically the preparations you can do to build your house. So get to know your systems, but also get to know your property. So if you already have a property, then it might be a good idea to, when you're there, to just sit there for a bit and watch what's happening, see what grows there, see what animals come by, see if there's maybe wild boar sleeping on your property, or if there's certain birds that are really abundant there, things like that. Also, if you already have a property, and you should really take a walk there after it rained, especially if you had a big rain. Go to your property and just walk around and see how the water flows, and that will really help you in thinking, like, where are you going to build things or put things, and or how are you just going to canal water to your garden, things like that. So that's part of permaculture as well. So having some permaculture background can really help there. So yeah, I'll do a talk about that another time. Also, when you're walking around your property, take note of everything that needs to be done. That's something we didn't do quite enough. And it turned out once we moved in, we kind of knew that, but there were lots of terrace walls to be repaired and lots of little things to be done, actually, like trees to be cleaned up. There was a lot of work, just pruning trees and things like that. So, and just making note of that will help you just assess the situation and put some time aside to do that, or maybe just hire somebody to do it, right? We repaired all of our terrace walls. Drywalling was one of the first things Axel actually learned when he came here. So he got really good at collecting stones and putting them together. But we often do that with the help of volunteers, so he doesn't often do that on his own. That's big jobs usually when you have a big terrace wall to repair. So that's getting to know your property. Next step is about moving far away. So if you're moving to an off-grid property, sometimes you're just moving a few kilometers, but in many cases you'll be moving far away. Like if you're in the US, I see often people will move states, or if you're in Europe, like we just moved from Belgium and Holland to Spain. And that's, so in our case, we had to learn the language, and that was, we were really happy that we took classes before we came here. That was really important, because that way we came here and at least we could have some basic conversations with the people around here, with shopkeepers or with builders and things like that. We see there's a lot of people who come here who have, well, no basic knowledge of Spanish, and they really have to rely on other people to do really simple things like opening a bank account, or just, yeah, well, you can always go to the shop to buy some milk, right? You might come home with something different after all, but still, that's how you learn. But still, it's a really good idea to take some classes at least before you leave, or maybe just download an app and learn some of the language in an app or online or something. Now, if you're not moving to another country, but you're still moving a little further away, you can still learn a lot about the culture and the customs. And this week I saw somebody in the group who said, what should I answer is if somebody says, bless your heart. Well, apparently that means you're about to get a lecture. But yeah, so in some parts of the US, that's something that gets said a lot, and in some parts it's not. So learning the culture and the customs can actually really help before you buy a property to know if this is actually a country for you. Like here in Spain, there are some awesome cultural things, like there's Semana Santa, but just before Easter with processions. There's all these little markets and people are extremely nice. But there's also, well, downsides, right? There's hunting. Some people love to hunt. Some locals hate it. Some locals love it. But there's still hunting to take into account. And there's these hunting dogs. It's not just about the hunting. It's just the hunting dogs. I find them really, well, not just annoying. We had some issues with them before. So you don't actually want hunting dogs on your property. But yeah, that sometimes happens. So it's good to know things like that in advance so you can make a good decision and decide whether this is the country or whether this is the region for you, the area for you to move to. Now, next, when you move abroad or far away, is to research procedures and paperwork and that kind of things. And that's a really interesting one. For instance, if you move to Spain, it can be really simple. You basically, if you move here, you really need an NIE, which is Número de Identidad de Extranjeros. And that is, just a paper. You can get it at your local consulate. We got it in Amsterdam at the Spanish consulate, and it's easy to get. And that's the number that's on it will be asked with every step you take. Like you open, just buy something, you need your NIE. Open a postal box at the post office, you need an NIE. Open a bank account or just a phone subscription, you need an NIE for everything. So by all means, if you're planning to move to Spain, get an NIE. Now, also, there's other procedures. Like, we are really happy. We got married like 2 weeks before we moved here, and that's basically we had another way of we had a contract back in the Netherlands, but when we discovered in Spain that contract didn't have any legal, it just didn't work there, then they won't recognize it. So that's basically really romantic why we got married in the first place. We had a really romantic wedding, I think, well, kind of, and we had a lot of fun anyway. So it was fun to get married, but still we were really happy we got married before we got here, because here in Spain, especially with every little thing you want to do, there's so much paperwork involved, especially when you come from a country that doesn't speak Spanish. You have to have everything translated and then registered with the translation needs to get registered with a notary, or it has to be done by an official translator and things like that. So that's something to take into account. If you have any paperwork to be done, do it before you move to Spain, if you're planning to move to Spain. If you're planning to move to anywhere else, research how it works there. Maybe you're moving to a country where paperwork actually gets easier. So by all means, do it over there if there's any paperwork to be done, of course. It's things like, a testament, something like that. So if you want to have everything in order, make sure you do it, or at least you research it before you make the move. And then, if you're moving away, of course, I think you should have a big going away party. We kind of had that. It was our wedding. We had a lot of fun. We saw all of our friends, and most of them especially family members, we haven't seen for a while since back then, actually. So it was a good thing to do. Then I'll just peek and so if you're just tuning in now, say hi. Tell me where you're from. I love to hear where people are from. But if there's nothing else, if you have any questions, ask them. But I think I'm just rambling at times. But if you have any questions, don't feel scared to ask them. Even if I don't answer them now live, I will come in afterwards and I will answer all questions afterwards as well. So if you have any questions, let me know. The next on our list is keeping animals. And that's something you don't have to do beforehand, but it's fun to do if you have the time anyway and you have the internet connection. You might not have an internet connection at first when you move to your off-grid property. So it's good to do a lot of research before that. So you could research which animals you actually want to keep and which you're probably not going to want to keep. When you do that, talk to other people as well who actually have those animals. Maybe you could visit some farms, preferably some farms in the area you're actually going to, and just see how that goes. So if you have chosen, like if you want to keep certain animals, maybe for more self-sufficiency, maybe to graze the grass, maybe just for fun, then learn to work with them. It's as good a time as any, especially if you have the time right now, or if you have the internet connection, like I just said. Also, building fences is a good skill to have before you move, or you can learn it as you go, of course, but that might mean your first fences will be really wonky and you'll have to do them again. But you can learn lots of things that have to do with animals. Also, I think it's a good idea to research local regulations, maybe before you move off the grid, but definitely before you get any animals. And here in Spain, or here in this area at least, you're supposed to have a permit with any animals. Yeah, like you're supposed to apply for a permit even if you want 2 chickens. Now most people, of course, they don't do that, but we applied for a permit when we got our alpacas. We have a permit for the chickens as well now, and it's a good thing to have, because that means officials know there's animals in your property. So when hunters come through your property, they will either avoid it, or they will just give you a call and say, well, we need to come by your property with our dogs that day, so can you lock them up? So that's a good thing. Also, I would advise to not get animals as soon as you arrive. Before you do, just get your fences up, build your stables, things like that. We've seen a few examples. I'm not naming names now, but we've seen examples of people just getting animals first, and then, well, we actually did that. We got animals first, and we borrowed some stuff to keep them in while we were able to make fences or make enclosures and build a chicken coop and a stable and things like that. So that's basically it when it comes to animals. Next step there is networking. And that might seem a bit silly, because networking, that's for if you have a business, right? But if you live off the grid, it's a really good way, a good thing to build a community around you, or to have a community around you. So first, of course, there's the mayor and people at town hall. And especially if you look at, if you're moving to near a small town or village, it's a really good thing to know the people at your local town hall, Ayuntamiento here. So we actually went to meet the mayor, and they told us all about the school and how they really wanted people to come in and make children for the school, basically. So that was a fun first talk we had with her. There's a new mayor in the meantime, but still we go by the Ayuntamiento now and then just to entertain relationships, to see what's going on. It's a good thing when you have a property and you haven't anything built on it yet, just visit your ayuntamiento or your local town hall and see what's possible and what they think of it. Because if you have big plans and even if it's legally possible, but your local town hall doesn't like your plans, they can do a lot to, well, not work with you, basically. So just get to know the people at the Ayuntamiento, get to know your neighbors as well. We know almost all of our neighbors. There's some of the land next to us at that side. Nobody knows who it's from. The guy actually died, and nobody knows the children or whoever got the property. But apart from that, most of our neighbors are farmers. The one at that side, he has olive trees and fruit trees. The one down there has mostly vines, but he's going to take away his last field of vineyard, because he's getting old. It's too much work. So we're going to try and see if they're really nice looking old vines, like 17-year-old. And I know the roots will be really deep, but we're still going to see with him if we can transplant some of those vines to our lands. That would be really nice. He's just going to plant grain now. But thing is, we know our neighbors. We have really good relationships with them. When our dog runs there, they're not scared of him, things like that. That helps. Also, meeting up with fellow adventurers, with other off-grid people, with other, in our case, permaculture people, that really, really helps a lot. It's really nice to read about what others are doing, to see videos of what others are doing. I follow a few off-grid people or homesteading people as well on YouTube and on Facebook and elsewhere. So that's a really good thing, to just follow people online. Also connect, as I said in the beginning, we have a group for people living off the grid in Spain. So if you're planning to move to Spain, join the group. I'll put a link in the comments. Meeting up with fellow adventurers, if you can find any in your area, in the place you're moving to, that can be a really good thing as well. We are really lucky, because here in Matarranya, where we live, there's plenty of people who are in the process of starting an off-grid project, or who already have it, or who've been in the process for 15 years, things like that. So there's plenty of people to connect with, and we actually have an awesome community around here. Like with one group, we come together every last Sunday of the month to work on one of our fincas, and with another group, we just have impromptu, like we'll call each other, oh, I need help with this, and everybody's just there the day after to help yeah, do lots of stuff. So it's really good to make some connections where you are. Even if you're not that sociable, it's really good to just know a few people you can call if your stuff breaks down, if you need to borrow some machinery or tool, or if you just need one extra pair of hands to get your roof up or something like that. So, and last but not least, when it comes to networking, is to find house sitters. Just before we moved here, all of our friends were like, oh, we'd love to house sit your place when you're away, and oh, let us know. And so, yeah, because of an off-grid house, it's not something you just leave like that. It's often, there's systems, there's, in our case, there's animals as well. There's a property to be watched. So we really want house sitters when we go away. And lots of people said, oh, we'll do that before we moved. But then once we moved, they're like, oh yeah, we'd love to do that in July. And it's like, okay, but we have a bed and breakfast as well. In July, our bed and breakfast is open. So find house sitters that actually are available when you actually want to go away, visit your family. In our case, we're going in a few weeks, or next week, we're going to visit our family in Belgium and the Netherlands. But we have awesome house sitters coming, so that's going to be all okay. So if you have any questions, anything you'd like to add, like if you're living off the grid, by all means, just tell me what your experience is with all of this. I love to hear things like that as well. So if there's no questions for now, if you have questions, I'll come in afterwards as well to answer them. So there's the money thing as well, and that's a really difficult thing, because I actually wish we would have prepared better for the money situation, the financial situation, but at the same time, I'm not sure we could have. We were living in Amsterdam when we moved here, and we were really in a very different mindset. Like, we were in a place where we were making regular money. We both had jobs, and we were just spending money as well. We had regular bills, and we thought we were really good at managing money because, well, we were not getting poorer, right? But then when you're off the grid, things are really different. If you don't have a regular job anymore, that might be a bit of an issue. Like, how are you going to make your money? There's lots of things you can actually do. Like, I'm a virtual assistant. That's how I make my money. However, I'm still a freelancer, so that goes like this, right? It's not the same amount every month. But also, you never know what you're going to spend your money on. We don't have any regular bills here. We don't have bills for water or for electricity or things like that. So the only regular phone bill we have is for a phone, or it's bills I pay for my business, of course, or for our bed and breakfast, like the autonomo thing where you pay monthly just to have a business. But apart from that, there's no regular bills, and you never know what you're going to be spending money on next month. Like, next month something could break down, or you maybe want to take on a new project, and that might cost more or cost less than you actually thought it would. So learning how to manage money when you have no idea what to expect, I think it's quite difficult. But if you have a way to do that, by all means share it with us, because I think that's a really good thing. I notice lots of people living off grid here, they have some issues just managing their money. It's not necessarily just with money. Like, most people can survive just fine and pay their bills and eat, right? But often it's just the idea of managing your money, and who's actually, the thing is, I know quite a lot of people here where one person is actually making all the money and the other person is doing more on the land, or is, doing more actual work, but not paid work. So that's a thing as well. Can you handle that? Or if you have a partner, and if you're planning to do anything like that, talk about it before or while you're doing it as well, because I think that's really important. So what we actually did before we moved off the grid was trying to save as much money as we could. So we stopped all subscriptions that we knew we were going to stop anyway at a certain point, like newspapers or some charities and things like that. We knew money was going to be a bit tighter, so we prepared for that so we could save up a bit as well. Also, if you have anything going in where you're living, like extra rent, extra money you're spending, now is a time to stop spending it and just make sure it's all finished and it's all behind you when you move off the grid, so you don't have the hassle, you don't have to think about that anymore. Now, next on my list, just a moment. Next on my list, that's Melissa saying, if you have animals, it's unlikely that a vet will come out for a goat or a chicken, definitely. Even for an alpaca, well, yeah, you need to find a good vet, first of all, a vet that will want to work with your animals. But in many rural areas, a goat or a chicken is just something a farmer will handle themselves, so they just have their own medical supplies, their own supplies even to kill an animal if you really need to. That's one really not nice thing, but it's just a reality. When you have an emergency, when there's an animal suffering, you need to be able to put it out of its misery right now and not wait for the vet to come out from Zaragoza or something like that. So, or from if you live in the US, I am friends online with a lot of homesteaders and people who live in the US, and even if they don't, even if they're not off the grid, they're often really remote as well. And you have to be able to do things with your animals on the spot and not wait for the vet. Even if you're used to something really different, like I'm used to living in the city where it's really unseen. Like if your animal is sick and you ask online, like, what could I do? People will just say, go to the vet. Who do you think you are? Go to the vet. You're not supposed to do it yourself. But here it's a bit different. Going to the vet, even with a dog, if we have an emergency with a dog, the closest veterinary hospital is 45 minutes from here. So it's something we need to take into account, so we have lots of medical supplies and things like that. Oh yeah, in the UK, farm vets are everywhere, says Melissa. Well, yeah, that's because there's farms everywhere as well. In the UK, I assume distances are a little bit, well, less big. Things are just less remote and less far away, hopefully. Yeah, I love seeing those programs about farm vets and rural vets in the UK and in Australia and things like that. But still, it's you can probably see those programs as well. Those are really busy people, and that's the same with vets here in Spain. They're just busy people, and they won't come out for a chicken. And even if you bring a chicken to a vet, they will often just look at you really weirdly. So yeah, that was a little thing about animals still. Then next on my list is growing your own food, because I notice lots of people are moving off the grid or are making at least a big change of life in order to be able to grow their own food and to be more self-sufficient. And there, the first thing I did, and I'm still really happy I did it, was to take a permaculture course. It's a permaculture design course, but it still had a lot of things about gardening and companion planting and how to irrigate your garden and things like that, and how to build soil, composting, all those things. Those are really, really good things to know before you actually start doing them. You can research everything as you go, but for instance, in our case, in the beginning we lived for a few months in a little house in the village that had no internet, no real internet either. It was so slow, it wasn't really worth it. You could send some emails, but not really do research and things. And afterwards, for like half a year, we lived in a tiny, converted stable, and there was no internet there. So I would go every few days or sometimes every day on weekdays to work in a cafe, in a local bar, but still to do research, to really download information, to really, learn things. It's really convenient to do that right now before you move off the grid, if you're not living off the grid yet. So taking a permaculture course or anything else like a gardening course. My friend Dana, who is in New Zealand, but she has kind of a comparable climate to ours, and she has an awesome gardening course, and that's all about learning to garden to feed your family. She has several children, and she basically grows a garden that works all year round, that gives her food all year round. So I'll put the link to her course in the comments as well. So if you're interested, you can check it out and you can learn how to garden to grow your own food. Also, learning to use tools, for instance, like we got a scythe to cut the grass, but that requires quite a lot of technique. And we met a few people who actually did a workshop to learn how to use them. That's a really good thing to know how to do, especially if you're going to do more things by hand, if you want to spend less fuel. Now, we also got a strimmer that works on electricity, so all we have to do is charge the battery and we can use our strimmer for a few hours. So that's a good alternative to a scythe. It's not quite the same, but still, if there's any other tools you know you're going to want to use and you're not sure how to use them, now is a good time to learn. There's workshops for everything, right? So by all means, learn how to use your gardening tools or your property management tools, or maybe even machinery if you're going to build things. So yeah. Also, when we're talking about growing your own food, saving seeds is a lifesaver. I spent the 2 years or something before we moved here saving seeds, and okay, some will actually not be as good and not actually come out, but still, it's a good thing to have just a little bit of a base of seeds, so you don't have to buy everything, because you might think, oh, I'm just going to buy seeds, it's going to be easy, and that is the case. But if you have to buy seeds, especially if you don't buy organic seeds and you have to buy seeds every single year, it's money, and it's quite a lot of money if you're not making a lot of money. So save seeds wherever and whenever you can. Also, maybe start planting things. I moved here with a few little trees. They didn't survive the first summer in the end. It was really too hot for them. They had been started in Amsterdam, so that's where I went wrong. But in some cases, you might be able to just grow them inside for a bit and things like that. Now, yeah, so that's basically the basics of how to prepare to have a garden and to grow your own food. But after that, there's also making and preserving your own food. So I wish I had done a canning workshop before I came here. I'm still not really good at canning. I'm much better at freezing. That's much easier. But being able to preserve your food, especially if you have a lot of harvest from your property, being able to preserve your food is a good skill to have. Also, if there's any appliances you need to buy beforehand, or things you know you're going to use. For instance, I still wish I had something that were good to make almond flour with. We have almonds here, but well, when I try to make almond flour, I don't have the right appliances for that. Learning to bake bread as well. I make my own bread every day. I have a great recipe for it. It's really easy. I just make it. I just mix it in the evening, and it will raise throughout the night. And in the morning, all I need to do is just pour it into an oven pan and put it in the oven, and that's it. So it's basically 5 minutes at night, 5 minutes in the morning, and then bake it. So I bake my own bread almost every day, and that's a really useful skill to have, because that saves us from having to go out and buy bread, and either bread that goes stale the day after, or bread that stays good for a really long time. But that is probably not really, that probably has a lot of extra stuff in there you don't want in there. So learning to bake bread is a good one, and learning to make different kinds of meals you can do with things from your garden. That's a good one. Also, learning how to harvest your trees, or how to prune your trees and things like that. We moved here when we it was in the middle of almond harvest season, and we started by picking almonds one by one, and that took a really, really long time. So we could have looked it up beforehand and learned that all it takes is to just hit the tree with a stick and get some nits underneath the tree to catch the almonds. So things like that. Also pruning your trees, that's good to know beforehand how to do it, so you don't have to start looking it up or learning it. Even if you can go with somebody to learn how to prune your trees, somebody who will just doing a workshop or learning from somebody who does it, that's I would suggest doing that if you are planning on having trees in your land. Yeah, and then there's all these other things you can also learn, like by all means, follow homesteading blogs, follow people who are on YouTube showing you all of their skills and all of the things they do when they live off the grid or when they homestead and things like that. Also things like making wine or beer or moonshine. The local moonshine is called aguardiente. Like most villagers here, they make their own aguardiente, and it's a lot of fun just to know how to make it and to have your own. Like last year, we had our own wine. We helped out some friends with maintaining their vineyards, and in exchange, we got wine, and that's really nice to have. So yeah. That is basically most of the things I think you could really do before you move off the grid. Some of them in the list are probably not what you want to be spending time on right now. Some of them are things you think, oh, I'll just learn as I go. So that's your own choice. I do have a blog post to go with it, and even a downloadable checklist if you want to go over all the things you can do before you move off the grid. I'll put a link to that, or I just put a link to that actually in here as well. So if you have any other questions, ask them. I'll be gone in 2 minutes, but you can still come in and ask your questions, and I'll make sure to come in and answer them afterwards. Also next week, so as you know, I'm coming live every single week to talk about something that has something to do with living off the grid, or with doing what we do, having more self-sufficient life, that kind of thing. Now, next week, Friday, I won't be here live because I'll be traveling, but I will be pre-recording things. I'm currently working on an ebook with Axel, my husband, who is, well, who knows quite a lot more than I do, about solar power. So next week, I'll be talking about solar power and about how to set up your solar system to live off the grid. That will be a pre-recorded one, but you can still tune in. It will be coming online Friday at 11 o'clock, like every week. So yeah, I won't see you next week. I will still, if you have any questions, ask them. Also next week, if you have any questions, ask them underneath the video in the comments, and I will come in and answer all the questions. I'll be traveling, not going off the grid, I'd say, but yeah, so I will still be available, so I will still be able to come in and answer questions. So yeah, that's, oh yeah, one last thing before I go is the olive oil. If you have ordered olive oil from us, we are going to Belgium and Holland next week. If you have ordered olive oil from us, we will send you an email on Sunday telling you how to collect it and things like that. If you haven't ordered olive oil yet, and if you'd still like some of our olive oil, then yeah, you can still order it until tomorrow at the pre-sale price. After that, prices will go up, but we'll see about that afterwards. Yeah, but for now, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you learned anything from this, if you got inspired to do anything, what you actually did, if you moved off the grid. Let me know all of that in the comments. I'd love to know, and I'd love to hear from you. And if there's nothing else, I'll just, I'll just leave you with this, and I will see you next week if all goes well. Bye-bye.